What if the baby that you gave birth to died, and then you found out 45 years later that the baby didn't die? That's what happened in this case, and this is Loretta's story. Loretta was born 45 years ago in South America. She was placed in adoption, and she was adopted by a family in the United States. She came to the United States. She lived her best life. She grew up in a wonderful, loving household. She got married. She had children. She has a great job. But all this time, she was just longing to find her biological family. She had taken a DNA test a few years ago, but the results came back and she really didn't have very many matches, and the matches that she did have, they were very low. This is very common outside of the United States. For people who are born outside of the United States, a lot of times they don't have good matches because the DNA testing isn't very popular in many other countries. And even in some countries, it's illegal to do the testing. In addition, when we get cases from people who weren't born in the United States, sometimes the records are unavailable to us due to privacy reasons. So she knew that the chances of her finding her biological family were pretty slim. But the DNA was out there. It was in a couple of the different platforms. And just this past February, she was contacted by a girl named Isabella from Australia. And she said, "Hey, I just got my DNA results and it looks like we're cousins." So immediately, Loretta thought that it was another distant match. She was probably a third, fourth, fifth cousin. And why would she have a match in Australia when she was born in South America? So she contacted DNAngels thinking that this might be a more distant match or maybe even a scam, and asked me to take a look at her match. So I took a look at her match, and she matched just at about 800 centimorgans. So this definitely could be a cousin. But there were also other relationships that it could have been. It could be a great-grandparent. It could be a great-grandchild. It could be a half aunt, half niece. It could be a great aunt, great niece. So there were a few possibilities. So I suggested that Loretta reach out to Isabella and ask her about herself. If there was a connection with South America, if there was what her age is, for example. So she reached out to Isabella, and she explained to Isabella that she's never had a match this high before, and she was wondering how old she was. She was wondering if she had any connections to South America. So they started a conversation. It turns out that Isabella's aunt had a child 45 years ago, but the child died. And that was crazy, right? Because Loretta's right here, and that was the only connection that they could think of. So everybody got the wheels in motion. Loretta has a friend who speaks Spanish, and Isabella contacted her family back in South America, and in a matter of days, they were on a Zoom conversation with the translator, with Loretta, with Isabella's aunt, who turns out to be Loretta's biological mother, who thought and was told that her baby died on the day that she was born due to medical complications. Turns out that Loretta's grandfather told her daughter that the baby had died, when in fact he had given the baby to an organization to have the child adopted. So here we are 45 years later, and these people are meeting face to face via Zoom, and the child that Loretta's mother thought had died 45 years ago was actually alive and well and living her best life. So this story just gets better. Loretta, for Easter, just a couple months later, she got her passport and got everything in order, and she went with her family to visit her biological mother, her biological family, aunts, uncles, cousins, even the grandfather who's in his 90s, who orchestrated this whole plan of giving the baby to the organization to have the baby adopted. So what's unbelievable to me is that Loretta was so grateful, so forgiving, just so happy to have finally found the family that she never thought that she would find. She met her grandfather. She did not have any hard feelings. I feel like I wouldn't have been able to be that forgiving, but she was, because she didn't regret her life, and all of this is just such a bonus to her to be able to not only find out who her family was, but all of the people were living. Her mother was alive. Her mother never had any other children, but now she has not only a daughter, she has grandchildren, and she is just like filled with love. It was just an unbelievable story. But wait, it gets even better. It turns out that Loretta's biological father, who also lives in South America, is still living, and she traveled down a second time around Mother's Day, and she was able to also meet with her biological father. So this is just an amazing story of forgiveness, of never giving up in your search, of never giving up that hope to someday find family. And it was just one match. Now, when we're doing the work that we do to find biological parents, we usually need multiple matches in order to network them together, and then to figure out who the grandparents are. And once we have the grandparents figured out, then we can figure out the biological father. But that wasn't happening in this case. But it was one match, but it was the right match. So that's just a reminder to never give up, that even if you don't have the best match or the match that you need to find your biological truth, it just is just a matter of time before that one match comes in that either brings everything together, or it's the one and only match that you need to find out who your biological mother or father or both are. So if you like the story and you want to show your support for Loretta and her mother and her cousin and her father and the rest of the family, please give a yellow heart in the comment section, because we really appreciate your support at DNA Angels. And if you ever have any questions, please visit our website or give us a call at DNAangels.org. Thank you.